Okay, so our next speaker is Kate Schoeffel. Kate completed her veterinary training at Melbourne University, and for almost the past 2 decades has been really interested in applying modern principles of animal breeding to breed purpose bred pet dogs. And she's here to talk to us about the formation of the Australian Association of Pet Dog Breeders, which is basically a model by which to promote responsible pet dog breeding. Please join me in welcoming Kate. Thank you.
Okay, you're going to have to excuse me. The last time I gave a speech in public was 25 years ago. So I'm just going to read straight from my notes because otherwise I'll start to gibber. It was my experience with my own pet dogs, long before I became a vet, that first sensitised me to the idea that it all may not be well with purebred dogs. Like most dog lovers, I've always had a dog. My first Lucky was a Kelpie, sort of a pound pup. She never went to the vet and she died peacefully at the age of 18. My second dog, Soddy, was another rescue and a miniature poodle. She was atopic, had luxating patellas, valvular heart disease, urinary incontinence, cataracts and separation anxiety. And, most unfairly in the face of all her problems, she was run over when she was 10. I'm a country vet and I spent the last 25 years in Condobolin in Western New South Wales. There aren't many pedigreed dogs out there, and most of the dogs that I deal with are working cattle dogs, sheep dogs and hunting dogs. They're lean, fit, athletic and obedient. I see them for vaccinations, traumatic injuries, and if they don't live to a ripe old age, it's usually because of trauma or disobedience. My professional experience with purebred dog problems is limited to the more common breeds: Dachshunds with bad backs, obese Labradors, Golden Retrievers with hip dysplasia. There were only 3 Bassets in Condobolin over the last 25 years. 2 had glaucoma, and all 3 had ear and back problems. The only 3 British Bulldogs I had in my practice all died on hot days at about the age of 3. Our own beautiful German Shepherd Jack, who was our most beloved family pet, was the only ununited ankylosing process I've ever operated on. He was crippled with arthritis in the hips and elbows by the age of 12. I did a science degree majoring in genetics before I did my vet science, and so because of my genetics background, it seemed obvious to me that this was more than just bad luck. I realised that inappropriate breed standards, closed stud books, founder effects and inbreeding were playing havoc with purebred dog gene pools and health. I also developed strong views about responsible and appropriate dog breeding. Why would anyone sell a Chow Chow, Newfoundland, Samoyed or Siberian Husky to someone living where the summer temperature is regularly over 40 degrees for weeks on end? Certainly the owners must take responsibility for their inappropriate choice, but didn't someone think to tell them that maybe Condo might be a bit tough on these dogs? For years I had to euthanase Australian unwanted dogs for our Shire Council, and I completely understand why animal welfare workers get so angry when they're constantly dealing with the waste of life which occurs when randomly bred, inappropriate dogs are taken on as pets by irresponsible people. If the breeders of these dogs could be traced and held responsible for their actions, this sort of problem would disappear overnight. In the early 90s, I went to my first annual behaviour conference. I was amazed at the array of behavioural problems being presented, and I was told then that statistics show that the majority of bites to children's faces came from entire purebred male dogs. On the 7-hour drive into the setting sun on my way back to Condobolin after this conference, these were the factors that got me thinking about what makes a good pet dog and how would one go about breeding a healthy, reliable family pet. I thought my dog Lucky was pretty close to perfect, medium-sized, a bit shaggy, friendly and gentle. She was a great companion. Bruce and I are commercial cattle and sheep producers, so the obvious answer to me was to crossbreed. I'd seen news items about Wally Conran and the Victorian Guide Dogs Labradoodles, and they seemed like a great combination for temperament, but too large for the average family and with too great a risk of hip dysplasia. So I thought about breeding miniature F1 Labradoodles as a terminal cross, with all the puppies being sold desexed. We were always looking for a drought-proof alternative enterprise, So with Bruce's encouragement, I decided to do the experiment. I bought a Labrador bitch and a toy poodle dog, and we bred the first litter of 2 deliberately bred miniature Labradoodles in 1993. Wally, the first black dog on that black and white picture, was one of those first puppies, and he spent 16 happy years in Tarahumara and died this January. In the meantime, I started desexing rescue puppies, did a university unit in marketing, an AI course, and a TAFE course in alternative farming enterprises, and I was quite proud of my A+ for my business plan to breed medium-sized crossbred dogs for educated, middle-class, 2-child families. Good A+. We had the expertise in the climate, and our nearest neighbours were 7 kilometres away. Our first miniature Labradoodles were the right size, and they were amiable, friendly, shaggy dogs, although they did shed hair, but that was never a high priority for me. So we decided to give it a go. No one had heard of Labradoodles, and the designer dog tag hadn't been invented. And it was only when I naively approached a couple of Labrador breeders to discuss obtaining a puppy that I realised the degree of hostility our seemingly clever idea would generate. From the start, all our pups were desexed at 6 weeks, sold with a comprehensive owner manual, a money-back guarantee against preventable genetic disorders without requiring the return of the dog, a guarantee of 50% refund if they were returned before 6 months of age, and an assurance that we would always take them back at any time in their life. At first, we would advertise them in the Canberra Times because we felt that the ACT had a large concentration of people fitting our target market. I would spend hours talking to people about what a miniature Labradoodle was, why I was breeding them, and I would tell them they were participating in an experiment. In 1995, we set up our first website. In 1999, we surveyed all of our 378 owners, and with a 62% response rate. We were then able to describe and publish on our website the average height, weight, coat type, health problems and owner satisfaction with reasonable accuracy. We found that we had less than 2% incidence of hip dysplasia, with only 1 severely bilaterally affected dog, but we had significant problems with atopy. Using the survey information, we were able to identify the dogs causing the problem, desex and rehome them. 10 years later, our database has just reached 2,000, and most of our new owners are referrals from other owners. These days, designer dogs are everywhere. Australian Labradoodles are one of the most popular dogs in the US, and President Obama unwittingly caused a storm of controversy when his daughter wanted to buy a golden doodle. While the figures aren't available, it seems that the sale of deliberately bred, crossbred or designer dogs may equal or outnumber the sale of purebreds in Australia. Interestingly, it's the middle-class suburbs that seem to have adopted Labradoodles, Cavoodles, Golden Doodles, etc. with the most enthusiasm. I believe that this is not because it's trendy, as opponents claim, but because these people are my target market. They are educated people who do their homework. They want a healthy, amiable family pet with the least possible risk that they will fight with other dogs or eat their children. While I'm proud to call myself a pet dog breeder and happily admit that my motive is commercial, there's a widely held view that breeding dogs for profit is incompatible with good husbandry and welfare. This quote from the RSPCA represents the common view of commercial dog breeders. A puppy farm is a mass production facility that breeds puppies for profit. The puppies and their mothers are often kept in very poor conditions. Breeding animals may be continually mated and kept with their puppies in cages and never allowed out to exercise, play, have companionship or even go to the toilet. Puppies born in puppy farms often have long-term health and behavioural problems as a result of poor housing conditions, poor maternal nutrition and a lack of adequate socialisation during the first critical few weeks of life. I have seen facilities which would fit this RSPCA description, and I think the fact that they can operate without intervention is a serious failing by regulators. For many years now, it's been obvious that the pet dog industry is large and potentially very profitable, and while welfare regulations are in place, there seems to be limited enforcement of them. About 3 years ago, I and a couple of vet nurses who also breed dogs decided to start an organisation to bring self-regulation into the business of pet dog breeding. After a long period of nothing much happening, We received support from the Pet Care Information and Advisory Service to undergo peer review to develop a professional manual of standards and a website.